Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're taking a really fascinating clinical journey straight into the heart of relationship dynamics. Specifically, we're looking at how we can completely reframe and actually treat relationship distress when ADHD, attention deficit/hyperactivity disorder, is in the mix. So let's just dive right in, because what we're about to explore here can truly transform a partnership from a place of constant, exhausting chaos into one of deep, meaningful connection.
Let me ask you something right off the bat. Does your relationship currently feel less like a romantic, equal partnership and way more like an exhausting, full-time parental management job? If you're nodding your head right now, trust me, you are absolutely not alone. This is honestly one of the most common and, frankly, one of the most painful dynamics that brings couples into therapy when ADHD is involved.
So here's our game plan for today. We're going to cover 1. The ADHD relationship dynamic. 2. Breaking the symptom-response cycle. 3. CBT for partner cooperation. 4. Mastering emotional regulation. 5. Checklists for shared responsibilities. And finally, 6. Step-by-step domestic routines.
All right, let's jump straight into part 1, the ADHD relationship dynamic. Before we try to fix a single thing, we really have to acknowledge and validate the immense daily stress that these couples are facing.
Because the pain here is incredibly real. To put it into perspective, longitudinal data actually shows that adults diagnosed with ADHD in childhood are 3 times more likely to get divorced compared to those without the condition. 3 times! That is a staggering statistic, and it really highlights that your standard run-of-the-mill relationship advice simply doesn't cut it when you're dealing with a neurobiological condition.
And honestly, it makes total sense when you look at how the dynamic shifts. You end up with this stark contrast between a healthy partnership and a caregiver dynamic. What happens? Is the non-ADHD partner often feels backed into a corner, forced to play the manager, handling the finances, the schedules, the endless daily chores. The romantic equity is completely gone. And the fallout? It breeds immense shame and secrecy for the partner with ADHD and profound, exhausting resentment for the non-ADHD partner.
To really build some empathy here, think about this powerful clinical metaphor for what the ADHD partner is actually experiencing every day. It's literally like driving in the pouring rain with bad windshield wipers at 90 miles per hour. Every once in a while, things might look clear, but most of the time, you have no idea what's coming at you. This perfectly captures the exhausting executive dysfunction, that intense distractibility, and the lack of internal structure that makes just meeting basic domestic obligations so incredibly hard.
So how do we stop the crash? That brings us to part 2, breaking the symptom-response cycle. This right here is the core neurobiological mechanism driving all that domestic conflict.
The crucial thing to understand is this specific pattern, the symptom-response-response cycle. Okay, let's say the ADHD partner gets hyper-focused on a hobby and totally tunes out their spouse. That's the symptom. The spouse responds by feeling ignored and unloved, so they get angry. Then the ADHD partner responds to that anger by defensively withdrawing or blowing up. Bam! The conflict amplifies instantly. To fix this in therapy, we have to externalize the disorder. We have to reframe the ADHD as a third party sitting in the room that both partners have to manage together rather than just blaming each other. And to externalize it, we have to start framing these things as neurobiological symptoms, not character flaws. Being chronically late, that's time blindness. It's not disrespect. Having an extreme reaction to a tiny criticism is rejection sensitivity dysphoria, not emotional manipulation. Blurting something out during an argument is an impulse control deficit, not calculated cruelty. And hyper-focusing on a video game is neurobiology, not a statement that they don't love you. Shifting this narrative is a game changer because it allows both of you to approach the problem with compassion instead of contempt. Now, once we've established that baseline of compassion, we can actually step in and intervene, which leads us to part 3, CBT for partner cooperation. This introduces our main clinical toolkit, cognitive behavioral therapy, but adapted specifically for couples. So how does this actually look in practice? Let's take a look at how we apply CBT frameworks to typical relationship hotspots. Take communication, for example. The symptom might be interrupting, so the intervention is deliberately slowing down conversations. When it comes to intimacy, distractibility is a huge barrier, right? So we counter that by scheduling dedicated connection times to block out outside stimuli. For finances, impulsive spending is met with collaborative budgeting and heavily automated systems. What we're doing here is creating an external scaffolding to support those internal executive deficits.
Let's break that down into some core communication tools you can start using right away. You know those rapid-fire arguments? Those are the absolute enemy of the ADHD brain. We have to slow things down. Practice active listening, and if you have to, literally hold your own hands together as a physical cue not to interrupt, do it! Next, clarify and confirm by repeating instructions out loud so your working memory doesn't drop the ball. Also, choose the right time for heavy talks. Avoid late nights when the ADHD medication is completely worn off. Finally, schedule just 20 minutes a day to focus entirely on validating each other. No fixing problems, just listening.
But look, none of those communication tools are going to work if you're screaming at each other. Which brings us to part 4, mastering emotional regulation. Because impulsive anger can destroy trust in literally seconds.
Now, while CBT is fantastic for changing behaviors, dialectical behavior therapy, or DBT, is incredible for managing the intense emotional hyperarousal that is so common in adult ADHD. It gives you what we call distress tolerance skills. Basically, it's teaching your brain how to cope in the moment when it's triggered, which prevents those impulsive, hurtful outbursts that leave the non-ADHD partner constantly walking on eggshells.
A really foundational DBT skill you can use right away is the STOP method. Step 1, literally stop the current argument or activity. Just pause. Step 2, take deep breaths, making sure your exhales are longer than your inhales to actively calm your nervous system. Step 3, observe your thoughts and feelings without judging yourself for having them. And Step 4, proceed with intention instead of just a knee-jerk reaction. Think of this method as pulling the emergency brake for your relationship before it crashes. Okay, once the emotions are regulated, we can finally tackle the logistics. That's part 5, checklists for shared responsibilities. This is the practical, roll-up-your-sleeves homework phase where we build out structured domestic organization.
Here's the deal. You absolutely have to externalize executive functioning. Relying on memory alone? Total recipe for disaster. So, set daily phone alarms for those recurring chores. Set up a physical, designated drop zone right by the door for keys and wallets so you're never scrambling to find them. Apply the 2-minute rule. If a task takes less than 2 minutes, do it right now. No procrastinating. And please, share a digital calendar so both partners have 100% transparency on what's happening. This takes a massive mental load off the non-ADHD partner.
And clinical guidelines actually back this up completely. Experts heavily emphasize avoiding cognitive overload by focusing on just one topic at a time, using shared written reminders like a giant calendar right on the fridge, and establishing strict cool-off periods. If either of you starts to feel flooded, you call a timeout, step away for 20 minutes, and only come back when you're calm. This isn't just a good tip, it's a medically backed survival strategy for your relationship.
Let's put all of this together in our final section. Step-by-step domestic routines. Checklists are fantastic, but cementing them into a daily, reliable rhythm is what actually banishes the household chaos.
Because here's the secret. Predictability dramatically lowers the mental load for the ADHD partner, and it massively eases the spouse's anxiety. A solid routine might look like this. You wake up and execute a simple, written morning checklist. Then, review that shared digital calendar together over coffee so there are 0 surprises. During the day, you adhere strictly to your cool-off protocol if things get heated, and you end the day with those 20 minutes of active, validating listening we talked about. In this case, structure literally equals freedom. As we start to wrap things up, I really want to emphasize something important. We need to reframe the narrative entirely and celebrate the ADHD strengths: spontaneity, deep creativity, this incredibly engaging energy, and brilliant out-of-the-box problem-solving skills. Look, these are very likely the exact traits that made you fall for each other in the first place. The goal here isn't to extinguish that fire, it's just to build a really safe fireplace for it. It's absolutely true. Research shows that people dating someone with ADHD often describe them as spontaneous, enjoyable, creative, and just plain fun. When you apply these CBT communication tools, when you use the STOP method to regulate your emotions, and when you build those external systems for your daily chores, you clear out all that chaotic static. And what you're left with is that fun, creative, deeply connected partnership that you both completely deserve.
So, I'm going to leave you with this one vital question to think about. How will you rewrite your relationship's neurobiological narrative today? It is time to stop blaming character flaws and start implementing a real, team-based plan. Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer. Go start having those conversations, get to writing those checklists, and I will see you next time.